what's going on everyone? This is Nick. Today I'm going to give you a little secret about how I compose music. So far I've let you in on a few of the secrets of my composition process, but today I really want to dive into the one thing that I think is the most important part of my composition. And it's something I realized pretty early on that was relatively unique because the people around me weren't doing it. But maybe I wasn't unique. So this approach of mine was kind of validated, so to speak, when I took a jazz arranging course with Rich Shimaria, the great jazz arranger. And in class he said, harmony is really just simultaneously moving melodies at the same time. Once he said that, that totally resonated with me, and I was like, wait a minute, I've been working like this basically my whole composing life. So I'm going to let you in on a few little secrets that I've used. If these kind of things interest you, please subscribe. There's a bunch of other videos on my channel about different tutorials and different methods I use for playing guitar and composing and all that good stuff. Now, have you seen some of my other videos like how I reharmonized Stella by Starlight into a tune I called Gaslight, then you may have noticed that I do like taking things from jazz standards and other popular songs. For me, I feel like those are a kind of building blocks of inspiration which I used to build off of. So let's dive in. So let's take the jazz standard I'll Be Seeing You and seeing what melody we could come up with based on that melody. So first off, that main motif, it's kind of going down the scale, and then you have this, and then it goes up to the next degree, so it starts on the 3rd degree of the scale, and then the next phrase starts on the 4th degree of the scale and then does kind of the same pattern. So now this is the melody I came up with. Okay, cool, so we have that melody. Now what comes next? Well, for me what comes next is the chords. And I like to write the chords kind of simultaneously as I write the melody. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a bass line, and from the bass line we're going to extract chords. So if you've studied at music school or you've looked into some curriculums, you notice that a lot of schools offer counterpoint classes. Now what is counterpoint? Counterpoint is essentially the study of two melodic lines acting at the same time and the analysis of what's going on. So that counterpoint between the melody and the bass line are super crucial to having a strong composition. For one, the bass line will kind of define the chord quality because whatever else you play on top of it will be referenced to that. For example, if I play a C major triad, if I put C at the bottom, it sounds like a major chord. If I put an A at the bottom, it sounds minor. If I put a D flat at the bottom, you can kind of determine how you feel by that, but it gives it kind of a diminished quality. So that being said, the bass line is going to determine how everything else functions in the chord progression and how the melody reacts and how the melody feels. Also, if you have a strong melodic line and a strong bass line, you have two strong melodies and there's two separate points of interest that sound great. If you've heard any chordless trio records or chordless quartet like the Ornette Coleman Quartet or Kenny Garrett's trio or Walter Smith III's trio, then you'll notice that there's not really any chords playing, but it's just a melody line and a bass line. That in itself provides so much interest that you don't really need any chords. And the reason being is because when you have two separate melodies, you're actually creating intervals, and within intervals you can extract some chords. So now I'm going to begin creating a bass line for this, and there's a few different ways. So this is the first thing that I have to start with. So basically with the melody notes, I'm just going to consider them diatonic thirds. This melody is in the key of E flat, like I'll Be Seeing You, and I'm just going to create a bass line that's a diatonic third below the melody note. So our first note is G, so we're going to have E flat, then F and D, E flat and C, D and B flat, and then we have C and A flat. Then it goes back to E flat and G, then D and F again, C and E flat, then B flat and D, and then F and then A flat. So that already gives us kind of a cool sound. So how do we get chords of that? Well, we already have the root, the third, so then we have two options, really. Well, we have a couple more options than that, but if we want to stick to basic triads, we have really two options. We could either add the 5th or add the 6th. Since they're all diatonic, the chords are going to be implied by the scale anyway, because at some point we're going to hear that B flat, and at some point we're going to hear that A flat, and at some point we're going to hear that G. So now with that, I'm just going to add in a few other color notes. So I'm going to play E flat major here, and then instead of playing D diminished, I'm going to play D over B flat and add the B flat up here in the middle voice. So then C minor, flat major, and then A flat major. Same thing. And then at the end, F minor. So essentially I'm just following that. Another thing we can do is go in what's called contrary motion, where the melody is going down, but the chords are going up. So for this, the bass line is going to go directly against the melodic line. So that one may sound kind of Baroque-esque, but it still works. Let's see how we can harmonize it. So here we have a major third, then we have a unison, then we have a minor sixth, a tritone, and then a second. So then again we have the major third, the unison, the minor sixth, the tritone, and then we have the sharp 4 or the flat 5, and then back to the root. So if we were to fill out the chords, let's make this E flat major and then F minor. So this one, we can interpret that as, like, for example, like a G minor flat 6. Or we can just interpret it as E flat over G. For this one, we can get a little spicy and play like an A flat leading. And then the next one, we have a 9th. So if we want to stay in the key, we can play. Here I have a major triad with the 9th on top. We can get a little spicy and leave the key for a second and make it B flat minor. Now I'm going to do that because I like how that sounds. So to play it in its entirety. So this chord would naturally be a half diminished because we have the flat 5th. But what if, since we left the key on the last chord of the first time through, what if we'd made this a major 7 sharp 11? So that would sound like this. That resolution is kind of weird, so I probably wouldn't keep that, but it's an option. Another thing we could do is literally take the melody and slow it down to half the speed. So in the melody we have G, F, E flat, D, C, and then G, F, E flat, D, and then A flat, then back to G. So what we can do is we can take the melody and play it at half the speed underneath as a bass line. So then we have this chord progression. Which is kind of neat. So then when we have that, if we harmonized it, so we have G minor 7, F minor 7, and then we have like an E flat 6 or like a C minor over E. And then here we have a minor 7, so I'm going to go ahead and put a B flat in there and make it kind of like a B flat add 9 chord over D. And then we have C minor, then G minor again, and then F minor, and then back to E flat major. So then the last step is we can do kind of whatever we want. And then we just analyze the intervals after and fill in the blanks and kind of create our own chord progressions that way. So here we have an E flat major chord, E flat major 7, and then here we have a 6th interval with F in the bottom. So we can kind of fill that in a few different ways. We can have a D minor over F, or we can have a B flat over F, or we can have a D diminished over F. So for that I'm going to go with a D minor over F. And then we have a perfect 4th here, so we can play a G7 sus, or just the G sus. And then I jumped to this D flat, and we have a sharp 4, and the next note is a major third, so we're kind of tied to that Lydian sound, or we can make a Lydian dominant. And then I go to C minor, and then the next chord is kind of like an A flat minor over B, or just B major with a 6, resolving down to a B flat with a 6. So as you can see, there's tons of cool options when you look at harmony like this, and you can really create new and interesting chords that you probably would have never thought of before. So I hope you've enjoyed this video lesson, and I hope you'll consider subscribing and liking this video. I'm posting new videos every Monday at 3 p.m, so I hope to see you again. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.